Lyndon, thank you for joining us and taking the time to answer some of our questions. What would you say are the top 3 things that you want people to remember from your presentation today?
I think the most important 3 things for me is to concentrate on what brings us together as a profession, not to concentrate on the differences between business continuity and risk management. What are the similarities? What are we aiming at? Second one is, people to clearly understand that risk management is management by any other name. That's what, as managers, we do. We manage risk. So risk management is an entirely integral part of the process of running a business. And then the third thing is to remember there's no simple solution that fits everyone. Everything we do has to be taken in context. So the next key thing is we have to understand both our internal and our external context before making any continuity or risk management decisions.
And picking up on that and on your presentation today, it is a bit of a provocative question. Do you think we will ever live to see the day when we don't have a separate standard on business continuity, on resilience and security, on risk management, on safety risk management? Do you think we'll ever come to a sort of a consolidated picture of the things which are much of the same?
It's a very good question, Alex, and when you say will we ever, I think it's a bit dangerous to say never to anything, of course. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I think there's too much, I would say vested interest, but I think that would be a negative phrase. Probably more emotional commitment from many people to certain particular disciplines that they've built up over the years. For example, I've been doing this stuff for 30 years, and if someone said to me, well, business continuity isn't going to exist anymore because it's something else, then clearly that would be a bit of a problem. But I think we all have to be big enough to recognise the overlap. So probably one day, but don't hold your breath.
Thank you for an honest answer. And in your response, you did mention how important it is to stop thinking about risk or business continuity or resilience or security as a separate, standalone, self-sufficient sort of process in the organization. It's all just a way of achieving the overall objectives. It's part of the sort of the tool set that any employee should have on his belt. Can you maybe share like a good example where this risk management or resilience, business continuity was integrated into the way organization operates? So you don't talk about resilience every quarter, or you don't talk about risk every quarter, but it's part of your sort of day-to-day life as it should be.
Yes, I think it's about maturity of the subject, and clearly when an organisation first gets serious about risk, continuity, standards, or any of the areas we're talking about at this conference, then there's a learning curve. There's a steep learning curve, and it's important, in that sense, that you have expertise, internal expertise, centrally to perhaps promote that. So the problem, and you will recognise this in your own profession, is that if you're not careful, that professional expertise becomes the only expertise in an organisation, and it doesn't get spread out. Whereas what we're all saying is that risk management, continuity, security is everyone's problem, and everyone's issue, and everyone's job. I have seen examples where that is better spread than others. I've seen bad examples. For example, and I'm slightly deviating on your question, but looking at it from the negative point of view, the worst examples often are where you might think they are strong, and that is in highly regulated industries. And the problem with regulated industries, they become compliance driven rather than driven by what is important. And so often I see very good examples of risk management practices and continuity practices in areas like retail, which for example are not regulated, and I see a lot of work being done in, say, finance and banking that is good in the volume of work being done, but it's actually only a question of will the regulator be happy with this. And so to me, to me, the best examples I often see are when they're driven by an inspirational individual, which may seem strange, but even in very large corporations, one inspirational risk manager, business continuity manager, almost a missionary can actually make a massive difference. And I've seen that happen in some organizations.
That's very interesting. And just picking up on that, on the being an inspirational risk manager or business continuity manager, what advice would you give somebody fresh coming into the sort of the risk continuity, disaster recovery space, either from a different field or a young person just moving into the profession?
Well, it's actually something that's been a bit of a hobby horse of mine over the years, and that is that traditionally people have not necessarily seen business continuity, perhaps slightly less so in risk management, not really seen business continuity as a good career option. They've perhaps seen it as something they've been asked to do, maybe later in their career or whatever. I mean, what it seems to me is that it's a great career option for a young person. If you're coming in as a graduate, a business graduate of some type, yeah, okay, what do you want to do? You're probably first thinking, I want to get into finance, I want to get into marketing or something that's really trendy or sexy in the thing. Business continuity, now that's technical or something like that. But actually, if you think about it, where are you going to get the experience? If you do something like a business impact analysis, which is an absolute classical part of business continuity, I mean, you're going to be speaking to management at all levels. You're going to be looking at all functions. You're going to be understanding dependencies. You're going to be understanding systems. You're going to be understanding processes, and you're going to develop your personal skills because you're having to interview people and talk to them. I mean, where else in maybe a year of taking a job you're going to get that breadth of experience? So to me, I think what I'd say to young people is, if you get the chance to have as part of your career development a spell in business continuity or risk management, because it's a similar thing driving it, then take that opportunity. Don't see that as I'm now being pushed into a specialization, because actually it's possibly a really good way of moving through the organization, getting stuff to know. The rider to that, of course, Alex, is your organization has to be mature enough and understand it, because if you don't want the person to then be an expert in that and get back to the question of being the expert. You want to use that knowledge to actually propagate that into the rest of the organization. So if it can be part of a young person's development program, great. If that young person wants to become a certified professional in risk or business continuity or security, great as well. But they don't have to see it that way. They can see it as a career development option.
It's actually an amazing way to look at it. I'll be honest, I never thought about that way. Is that place in continuity or risk or resilience could be like a subject that you do in the first year at university, where you just get exposure, you tip your toe, you see what it is, you get a different mindset potentially. Thinking about the threats and the effects of uncertainty, etc. That would be quite amazing, actually. Finishing on the sort of on the lighter note, and just picking up on that as well, is what would you say are your favourite book or books in the space of sort of risk, resilience, continuity?
Well, books are books are a personal thing, I guess, and though I wouldn't say I've got a particular favourite. I mean, one author that was not writing specifically about risk or continuity, but has written for 50 odd years and was quoted in by one of the presentations today is Peter Drucker, and I often quote from him myself, because I think he says a lot of very wise things which actually are risk related things. So anything that Drucker's written, I think is good. If you want something specifically much more what is business continuity and what it's all about in the details, then a friend of mine, Andrew Hiles, who's been around the industry for about 30 years and probably had somewhere near 30 books published on the subject, anything by Andrew, particularly the definitive guide, which I've been fortunate to contribute to on a couple of occasions, which is not written just by him, it's edited by him with a lot of experts from the field. It's a very good overview of the topic. So I think Andrew's definitive guide, or general reading in the area from Peter Drucker. Excellent.
Thank you so much for taking the time, Lyndon. Thank you.
Thank you.